This is the one Czech joke I know. I said, Czech guy goes to his optometrist, and there's a chart on the wall. He says, cover one eye and read the bottom line. So he covers his eye, and then he goes, KQRXVVTRKKLTZ. And he goes, that's great that you can read that. He says, read that, I know him. This is great. This is exciting to be interviewed by GateWorld. It really has been a long time, hasn't it?
It's been a long time. But it's great to have you back, David Nykl. We're here at Gatecon. Let's start there. Let's start with Gatecon and the convention experience, and particularly these fans. How do you find this experience?
First hour here. Gatecon is always reliably the con in this city because it draws the fans perennially. Adjusted for COVID, of course. I think this is our first one back, isn't it?
Yeah.
That might be why I'm getting the 18s and 19s messed up. Adjusted for COVID, that was the last time, wasn't it?
We missed it 2 years ago.
Because we missed it 2 years ago and last year. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And what strikes me is how the community just keeps together. I see familiar faces. I see people and it's almost like a two-way conversation. Oh, hey, you from Texas, you remember when we talked about this? So it's really kind of gone from being it went from sort of the excitement of the show to kind of being a nostalgia act, and now it's sort of morphed into it's more than just nostalgia now. It really is a lifestyle on both sides of the camera, as it were. I mean, I see Peter Williams, who I love, and I haven't seen him for ages, and we're like brothers. It's just so fantastic to see him again. And I'm hoping that's what's happening among the fans too, is a chance to get together. So that's the real gift of these things. And the pandemic helped show me that too. I used to think that, people, I'm tired. And it's like, you realize when you take them away, you miss them. People, that is, and your friends and the fans. So I'm very happy to be back.
This is only my second Gatecon, but you're right. When the shows were on, when they were in production, it felt like there was kind of a focus on the show.
Yeah.
And everybody was getting to know each other, and you were doing your first Stargate event.
Yeah, I was so nervous, and so it was a whole different thing to learn how to do, because as an actor, you're yourself, and then there's the character that you play, but these things taught me how to develop a sort of a third person, a kind of a yourself privately, but a little bit more of a rock star version of yourself, I guess. I don't know
the public
how to say
version of yourself that people want to line up and
that's what I was most nervous about, because when I first came out on stage during this heyday that you're talking about, when it first started, it was in a hotel in Heathrow, and I was like nervous. I said, I don't have anything prepared. I don't have my lines. I don't have anything. I came out and like the flash cubes and 700 people. I'm going, what is happening? What is happening? We do the show, and you do the scenes, and you go home and you wash the dishes. It's fun to shoot. It's a lot of fun to do, but there's really no feedback from an audience, and you sort of get it all at once when you come up on stage and you go, this show is huge.
Yeah, and now conventions like Gatecon are the family experience. We get together to see each other again.
Yeah, and generations, right? Generations. I grew up watching you. Yeah, I guess you did.
Yeah, and you as actors as well.
Yeah.
You get to see each other. You just crashed Paulie's photo op.
Oh, I might have. Yeah. He needs that. He needs a little course correction every now and then. He just gets too much on himself, so he needs he needs to be brought to earth. Love you, Paulie. You're not going to watch this anyway. But I'll tell it to your face. Anyway.
So somebody asked a question yesterday during one of the panels, who's first Gatecon? Who's new here? And you'd be shocked the number of hands that went up. 10, 20, 25%
really?
Of the audience.
So really?
So,
cool.
Okay, there's a new generation of viewers who are watching the show, right? They're watching Atlantis on Hulu or wherever it is in their local territory right now. It just came back to Amazon Prime.
Did it?
So there's more opportunity for folks to discover the show for the first time, and we see this all the time.
Well, that's evidence of that then, if they're showing up.
And so now they're showing up to conventions and they're taking that next step into the fandom. So if you'll let me, I'm going to ask questions that I asked you 15 years ago, because we have a whole new audience.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay.
Well, I want to go back and in addition to what you're doing now, I want to talk about the early days. When you first joined the show as Radek Zelenka in 38 Minutes, episode that we just watched with our kids. Our kids are into Atlantis now.
Did you?
Which is, so we're cultivating the next generation.
Excellent. Well, you're asking me to reach back. I spoke about it a little bit on stage. What I remember about that, like I wasn't cast in the pilot. Right. I remember I auditioned for the role of Dr. Beckett with the Scottish accent. That was when it first came up for the pilot. I didn't get that because apparently Paul's Scottish accent is better. But a few weeks later, a call came in for a Russian Eastern European scientist for a new show called Stargate Atlantis. And I said, "Oh, Stargate? No, not the one you're thinking. It's a new show. It's a spin-off. It's okay." The one I auditioned for the doctor. Yeah, that's the okay. So they pulled me in, and I come into an audition room, and it's just a bunch of big burly Russian guys. I'm like, okay, so it's this kind of a thing. And it was a scene from 38 Minutes where I'm talking to Tori on the radio, and we did that. And I just remember doing it. Whatever the gag was, I remember doing it up. I thought, I'm not going to do it like that so they can see my eyes. I'm going to do it like that.
Yeah, you're working the control panels.
I'm working the control panels.
Jumper, trying to
exactly
figure out how to retract
that
the drive
scene,
pods.
and I'm talking. Don't talk to me, please, or something like that. And that was the scene that we did. And a few days later, I got the call to come in and. On set, and they changed the name from, it was Ruslan or Ruslov or something like that was the name of the character, to Zelenka, which is a common, or not a common, it's a well-known Czech name. It means green. Zelenka, Zeleny is green, so Dr. Green. And so that's kind of cool. It's Czech. And so they knew that I was Czech, so they cast that way. And Brad Wright was on set that day that I came in for the thing, and I told him my one Czech joke. Were you in the audience today? The Czech joke? Should I say the Czech joke?
We gotta hear it.
Do we gotta hear it? Okay. So Czech guy. So I told him my name is Nykl. Nykl is how it's spelled. Can I buy a vowel, sort of thing? And I said, this is the one Czech joke I know. I said, Czech guy goes to his optometrist, and there's a chart on the wall. He says, cover one eye and read the bottom line. So he covers his eye, and he goes, KQRXVVTRKKLTZ. And he goes, that's great that you can read that. He says, read that. I know him. Can I buy a vowel? So I said this joke to Brad Wright, and I like to think that that's the joke that got me the part. He laughed.
That was it.
And Zelenka came by. I had only a last name first, and then about 3 episodes later, I got my first name, which was Radek.
If you can make folks laugh on that cast and have a good time and not be full of yourself, life's too short was their motto on set. Mm-hmm. You're going to go a long way in Stargate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was fun. From remembering the shoot days to sort of the Mutt and Jeff routine with David Hewlett, to the kind of back and forth, I liked the fact that they could trust us with some improv. That was a really nice thing that it wasn't as rigorous as I've heard other productions can be with their words, which is ultimately a good trust in the actors. So that was really nice, and it was the first time I really had a chance to sort of develop a long-form character on a TV series. Plus also the technical education of that, like hitting your mark and plate shots and how things are set up. You know, when you first come to that, you don't necessarily learn those specifics in acting classes, right? They talk about motivations and objectives and all that sort of stuff, but hitting your mark and getting the lighting and the way it's supposed to be is a whole other school, and that really got honed on Stargate for me.
And technical in the dialogue, obviously. You and David carried a lot of dialogue, and a lot of other cast members have told us, God bless them, I could never do that. You have to be wired a certain way as an actor to be that kind of...
Yeah, it helps having someone like David along, because I mean, I think that rather than having him go through huge monologues, they created a second character so it would be dialogues in nature, so I had to do the same thing with an accent. So it's like Ginger Rogers. She did the same thing as Fred Astaire, but she did it backwards and in heels.
And in heels.
Yeah.
So again, we're rewatching the show. We're in the middle of season 1, and so we hit the storm and the eye, the big two-parter in the middle of the first season. And it felt to me, knowing what's ahead for the characters, this is kind of the moment where the Mutt and Jeff routine starts with McKay, and where Zelenka as a character starts to click, and it's clear this character's working and he's going to be around for a while.
Is it?
Can you speak to that transition of just kind of coming in as a one-off day player to being somebody who is more consistently, reliably recurring?
You mentioned it happened in that episode. I never thought of it in terms of that's sort of the impression of that. You hope for that. You never know. You don't know what they need. The only thing you can do is show up and do your job, and everybody says that. You're lucky enough to having been able to do that. But the real credit, I think, goes to the to the way the producers and the writers sort of conceived the thing. That, like I said, that they didn't have just David Hewlett going. That they split it off and sort of this. The analog is Beaker and. On the Muppets, right? Beaker and the what's his name? Yeah, Bunsen Honeydew. Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. That kind of the scientist, and that was the one image that came into my mind probably around the time that you're talking about the eye and the storm. And I think the writers sort of caught on that there was this chemistry going. And that's one of the most enjoyable parts of Stargate for me is the riffing with David Hewlett. It subsided a little bit through season 3 and 4, and they brought it back. I find in season 5, I didn't have as many scenes with David through those seasons as I had in the earlier.
And that dynamic between Zelenka and McKay changes as well, because they're teamed up. They're a buddy when they're trying to get the shield raised before the storm hits, and the sort of argumentative snippiness. Isn't there just yet.
Yeah, and also the dynamic is important, which is that he's the boss, and I'm an underling. And I like that the dynamic was that, and that it was I wouldn't say rancorous, but that there was the sort of sniping back and forth. It wouldn't have been as much fun if we were friends, right? There's no pushback. There's no sort of drama there. So the fact that he was an insufferable megalomaniac. Hi, Dave. You know what I mean. Was the meat that my character could chew on. It was something to react to, like, oh my God, this idiot, and all the swearing that I did in Czech was because of him.
McKay's character was conceived as kind of a foil to Samantha Carter, and now when you put him in a new show, it feels like he needs a new foil, and they found that with Zelenka.
Maybe that's it. Yeah. Well, he's a good foil for a lot of characters. Yeah.
How would you describe Radek Zelenka's inner monologue? Who's this guy inside of his head? Is he kind of a what you see is what you get person, or is he plotting to take over the city? No,
I don't think it's as nefarious as that. I think I kind of, from the point of view as being the Czech, there's a kind of an immigrant mentality in there that, he's got onto the Stargate program, he's in this thing, but he's not American. Doesn't, he's maybe NATO aligned or is so there's a sort of thing as my performance is what's going to get me to belong. Right? So that's sort of the inner monologue I think that was important for him, that he has to keep doing well, and he was doing well. He was in some cases doing better than his superiors, but the fact that it was never sort of really recognized is the gag, right? Is the sort of the character of that, and I like that. I like the fact that because people can sort of relate to that character that never really gets his due. So I'd say that he was always after trying to do his best.
He's kind of the everyman genius.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but sort of, I know that type of guy in Eastern Europe that just sort of very analytical, very much about the numbers, very much about getting the problem solved that way. And, human resources and issues like that are just sort of in the way.
It's been a while since Atlantis went off the air, since you guys wrapped up that. When you look back on it, right, you come and talk to all of us Stargate fans in a big room, and folks pepper you with questions. What memories stand out from that experience?
Well, this whole third person sort of thing is I sort of thought when it would first start that it would be like I gotcha questions, like you didn't know what the proper thing was or what it is. But that's not the case at all. It's more like what I realized is I had to find a way to sort of try to share the experience, because the fans want to know, what is it like to be on set with Jason Momoa, for example. And so, and I didn't really actually work with him that much. I mean, he was on set, but we didn't have too many scenes together, for example. So it was sort of dredging up or sort of remembering those kind of moments to sort of share what a day on set is like. That was kind of what I learned how to do, or to sort of explain. And then, as we've talked about earlier, how it's morphed into a different thing now as the relationship has grown with the fans, and they sort of know that you tell the story. Like the one fan this morning in the panel said, "Terrell, tell your bird story." So she's obviously heard it before, and Terrell's obviously said it before. It's just like, could you play that again for us, please? You know,
listening to your favorite
songs. Play Stairway to Heaven. Play Stairway to Heaven.
Tell us the Puff and Ruffle story.
Yeah, exactly. So it sort of becomes its own mythology. You know what I mean?
Working on the show, I don't know if you go back and watch episodes years later now. If you,
I haven't done it for a long time. I did it about 5 years ago, but not since then.
Yeah. Are there favorite Zelenka moments, scenes, opportunities? A little bit more in season 4 and 5. You got to kind of step out and do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Done some stuff with the Travelers.
Off-world. Yes.
To go off-world.
Off-world in season 4 for no reason at all. I got called in for a wardrobe fitting, and they were like, I thought, oh wow, I'm gonna get a different. I'm not gonna wear a blue shirt anymore. It's gonna be. And they came in. There's a blue shirt. We just wanted to make sure. Oh, okay, yeah, still fits. Same shirt. So I don't know if that was like. Now that I think about it, maybe it was putting on weight. What would I have to come in for? But so yeah, I know I wore the same stuff. I stayed behind in the in the gate room pretty much, and a few times I went off world, but I think Zelenka was a bit scared, or didn't have that sort of, was the stay-at-home sort of, was the stay-at-home scientist. I welcomed any chance to sort of go off set. Not personally as an actor, because that means driving to Langley, but I could ride my bike to the studio from where I lived, so I liked having a close commute.
One of the things that's happened recently is Big Finish brought their audio dramas back.
I heard,
They're back in print.
Those were a blast.
So you got a Zelenka story, or did you do 2?
Yeah, I did 2, yeah.
You did 2 Zelenka stories. Well, tell us a little bit about that experience, and hey, would you do more? We could get more
Absolutely,
Zelenka stories.
for sure. I love doing audiobooks, and it was a really fun experience, particularly because I was surprised at how the fans responded to them. I thought it was just like a one-off, and you do them and they would sort of disappear. But I heard later on, a couple of years later, about a family that was stuck in some snowstorm in a highway and they would listen to both of those audiobooks. And it was like, thank you for getting us through this thing. Wow. Oh, that's kind of cool. Whenever you hear stories like that, right?
That's awesome.
That they, and of course it was in the Zelenka voice, so there's the different timbre and the different sort of tones of the character. But the stories were really well written. They were very much in keeping with canon, the way the stories are on Stargate. So I was impressed with them. I'd love to do another one again.
That'd be fun. It'd be great to see more future stories. Even if we can't get the big Atlantis movie going, at least there's avenues for storytelling with these characters again.
Yeah. Well, there's rumors I keep hearing. You probably know better than I do about it coming back, the franchise. So
that would be nice. We're waiting to see what Amazon and MGM want to do with this thing.
We're waiting to see what Amazon and MGM want to do with this thing.
Well, David, what have you been working on lately? I mean, it's been a while since Arrow was done, but
Arrow was
boy, we just loved Anatoly.
Did you guys see that?
And yeah, we watched religiously. We loved the way the dynamic shifted, and then Anatoly becomes a bit of an antagonist for a little while.
It was fun.
Working on that show and working with Stephen Amell.
Yeah. Stephen Amell's great. He's a consummate professional man. The work that kid did on that show was pretty impressive. I mean, from starting in the gym in the morning to that sort of, I don't have that kind of devotion. Good for him. It was a harder show than Stargate in a lot of ways. It was street level crime, so a lot of stunt work, ratchet work, rolling in puddles at 2 in the morning sort of thing, in nice Italian shoes. driving nice cars. That's what I remember. But mostly night shoots and a pretty serious set. There was a little bit of fooling around, but it was because of the amount of work that needed to get done, and it was a lot sort of harder because guys were jumping off of buildings and like I said, ratchets so stunts were a big thing. I'd spend hours waiting in my trailer for a stunt to happen, and then I'd have my scene, for example. So those sort of things were great. After that, I did a show called in Europe, HBO, called The Sleepers, which was an HBO series. It was a spy drama like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, where I played an English agent. That was super, super fun. We shot that in Prague, 1819, just before the pandemic came. So if you watch, it's on HBO Max. It's called The Sleepers, and it's set in Czechoslovakia, back when it was Czechoslovakia in 1989, just before the wall came down. And now there's another one maybe coming up, hopefully in Europe. Can't talk about it too much, but there's another miniseries maybe in the works, so fingers crossed.
Okay, has this shot yet?
No. We're in negotiations right now, and might be going off to Budapest. So we'll see what happens.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. That would be great.
And a great segue, talking about your Czech fans and the new Czech fans. I still get comments all the time.
Do you?
From Czech fans about, Zelenka's obviously the star of this show.
From the Czech perspective?
Yeah, any parting words for your Czech fans?
I'm trying, do prdele. The idea behind that, I think, is that I got to swear in Czech. So the script would say swears in Czech, and I got to say to Rodney what I really thought of him. And when there's no censors that understand what you really think of him, you can say anything you want. So it turns out I did, and that's in Czech, and the Czechs just love it.
Does it get?
For example, what I just said is, I'm trying for fuck's sakes. And it was like a catch. It's become like a catchphrase. It's like, I'm trying to prdele. And that's the one where I'm with Cavan, I think, and the Daedalus is exploding or something like that. I think I remember that. When you say, if I've seen them on episodes of Atlantis, it's actually more online. I see the clips and memes and bits, and I go, oh yeah, that's where I see them. But yeah, the Czechs are great. There's a great Comic-Con out there that I love going to, so looking forward to doing that again.